Hello everyone, my name is Katie Booser and I'm a third grade teacher at Franklin Elementary School in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Last year I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to many of you live about movement in the classroom and the impact it's had on my teaching and, more importantly, the lives of my students. However, this year's a little different. We're virtual. I'm sitting in my empty classroom. Things have totally shifted this year in so many regards, especially in education. And last year, I focused a lot on how movement has impacted students' lives. And ironically, it's really never been about movement in the classroom. I mean, my desks are stacked. Most of us haven't been teaching live in front of students for the last 6 months. Things have totally changed. And this movement in the classroom has never really been about the actual physical classroom. It's been about the impact it's made in the lives of students outside of the classroom. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 5 ways that I've pivoted doing movement with my students during distance learning. I want this to be simple and I want it to be tactical, and I want every educator to realize the importance of moving our bodies every single day with our students. It brings up their spirit, their confidence. They feel stronger inside, and they're creating habits that last them many years outside of the classroom. So here are my 5 ways to pivot movement in the classroom. Number 1, schedule it. Before, I wasn't really scheduling a specific time every day to get my kids up and moving. I kind of was just feeling them out. We would always do 5 minutes of movement, but I just kind of would read the room. But I can't really read the room right now, and it's really hard for me to always gauge things virtually. So for me, it's really helped to schedule it a few times a day. And sometimes it's for 2 minutes, sometimes it's for 5 minutes, sometimes it's longer. You do what works for you, but scheduling it has really helped me. So that's number 1, schedule it. Number 2, something quick. I've always said, move 5 minutes. Quick, simple, easy. Sometimes on Zoom or Google Meets or however you're meeting your students virtually, it's hard to even get 1 minute in. But even something as simple as having a student lead a deep breathing exercise where you're having them count on the inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've done that several times with students, and they like taking ownership, and then it takes the pressure off you a little bit. So number 1 was schedule it, number 2 was quick, and number 3, simple. We cannot handle anything else that's complicated right now. I know for me, I'm continually inundated with so many changes, and I want movement to be something I always do in the classroom, whatever the classroom looks like, but in order to do that, it has to be simple. And one way that I've done that this year, I'm actually sitting in my classroom, as you can see, and on my desk, I have a mason jar, and I've literally just written a couple different exercise moves that I've wanted to teach my students throughout the school year. So anytime I think of something, I write it on a piece of paper, I fold it up, and then when I have a couple extra minutes or when we're doing our movement time, I'll pull one out and say 30-second plank. Hey guys, do you know what a plank is? Let me show you the form, la da 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 da, and I go from there. Or, let's see what else is in here, jumping jacks. We'll do like a minute of jumping jacks, and I'll have them count by 5s or 2s or 10s and incorporate math. Something really simple where I don't have to think on the spot, and this was a really good trick for me. So number 1, schedule it. Number 2, make it quick. Number 3, simple. Number 4, which I think is really important to address, accessible. Teaching virtually means we are in the homes of our students. And as you know, some of their home lives are really hard. Sometimes they turn off their cameras because they don't want you to see what's going on inside their house. And I really try to be mindful of that and be mindful of space. I have an empty classroom. I show them all the time. I'm like, I have so much space here. And I tell them, at my tiny apartment at home, I don't have very much space, but I try to gear my movement in ways that's not taking up a lot of space. So wherever they are at, if they're sitting on the floor of their kitchen, if they're in a closet, if they're in their bed, if they're in a room with a lot of kids, I try to be mindful of that when I've pivoted with movement outside of the classroom and at home. Another way that I've incorporated it being accessible is that I try to get their home involved in our movement time together. Sometimes I send them on little scavenger hunts. I'm like, you have like 2 minutes to go find something that you can use as a weight. And I give them a couple examples, like go grab a can of vegetables, go see if you have a water bottle that you could use. And they come back with crazy things. One kid brought a watermelon. One kid brought a baby sister. It just provides an opportunity for you to connect with the students, but also just be really mindful of us going into their homes. So number 1, schedule. Number 2, make it quick. Number 3, simple. Number 4, make it accessible. And number 5, which is probably one of the most important, is do it together. Students do what you do. They are watching. We know that when they're in the classroom and even virtually. I've made it a point that every time we stop for our movement break, I'm doing it with them. Whether I'm in a dress, whether I don't have the right shoes on, I try to really make it a bonding experience with me and with the students. And another bonus, when you do it with your students, you're doing it, they're doing it, and a lot of their family members are doing it as well. Something I touched on a little bit last year was Fitness Fridays, which has been magical. We're still doing Fitness Fridays on Zoom. What is Fitness Friday for those of you who don't know? Well, I pick some sort of activity, a movement activity that we're gonna do together. A couple examples that we've done this year, we've done kickboxing, we've done yoga, we've done dancing, we've done HIIT workouts, we've played games. Am I a qualified kickboxing instructor? No. I fumbled over that word because kickboxing still makes my heart palpitate. Makes me really anxious, but the kids were super interested in it. So I was like, you know what? I've done it before. I can look up some videos, and I just let it. And the part that we were doing it together is what made it so much more magical. And doing it together, we also are holding each other accountable. I still keep track of the movement we do together. When I was teaching from home, I had a little clipboard and would just tally every time we did movement. And now I keep track in the classroom, and we just finished week 6 of school, and we are almost at 4 hours of movement. This is virtual movement. I'm so proud of them and our efforts together. So 5 ways to pivot movement. I'm not calling it movement in the classroom anymore because I never really had to do with that. 5 ways to pivot movement. Number 1, schedule it. Number 2, quick. Number 3, easy. Number 4, make it accessible. And number 5, do it together. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you take something away from it. And I just want to encourage you, do what works for you. I also want to remind you that your health and wellness matters. You can't show up the best version of yourself for your students if you're not taking care of yourself. Doing movement with them helps. Please reach out if you have any questions. I love talking about movement, kids, education. You can find me on social media at Katie Booser. You can send me an email. It's kbooser@sbunified.org. I would love to get in touch with you. Thank you so much for spending your time here and pouring into your students' health and wellness.